Jon Jones' long-awaited return to the UFC is coming along nicely, with a date set for as soon as March for his heavyweight debut. Due to a dispute with UFC brass and the pandemic, the former pound-for-pound king hasn't stepped into the octagon in nearly 3 years, but he's prepared to join the game. Today we'll be looking at how other fighters have reacted to Jones' return, what happened, and more. Let's dive right in. Starting off, let's see why Jones left the UFC in the first place. The UFC stripped light heavyweight champion Jon Jones of his championship and suspended him indefinitely. The struggling fighter was wanted after reportedly fleeing the scene of a hit-and-run in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which left a pregnant lady with broken arms in the hospital. Jones was released on $2,500 bail after confessing to police and was forced to face criminal charges. At UFC 187, Jones was set to defend his championship against Anthony Johnson. With Jones suspended, Daniel Cormier, who was crushed by Jones in January of that year, stepped in to take the bout. Jon Jones is currently ranked number 1 in the UFC's pound-for-pound rankings, and the impending bout was supposed to be his 9th championship defense. Jones has been out of the spotlight since the news, although he has apologized to supporters on Twitter. The UFC, however, claimed to be very disappointed in the fighter and issued a statement expressing their displeasure with the incident. Moving on, let's take a look at his official announcement to return. Jon Jones has teased his return to the UFC more than once. At the time, the former light heavyweight champion was preparing to face Stipe Miocic in December's UFC 282 pay-per-view. Just seconds after Jones stated his plans on social media, the UFC announced Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira would headline the December card, thereby ruling out Jones versus Miocic. Jones hasn't fought since a unanimous decision victory over Dominic Reyes at UFC 247 in February 2020. He abandoned the light heavyweight title in August of that year due to a contractual dispute with the UFC and a desire to move up to the heavyweight division. Since last summer, UFC President Dana White has teased Jones' comeback, suggesting Miocic or Francis Ngannou will be Jones' next opponent. Now let's see what his fellow sportsmen have to say about his return. First off, let's see what Dana White had to say. It was believed that the former light heavyweight champion will return to the octagon on December 10th in Las Vegas for a rematch with Stipe Miocic. However, prior to UFC 280, White told the Mac Life that Jones would not compete this year before giving a date for his MMA return. However, they have expressed their desire to get him early next year or in the spring. Jones gave up the 205-pound title and stated his intentions to compete at heavyweight in the future, but the bulking process and a contract dispute with the UFC have kept him out of action ever since his last fight. Now that his extensive heavyweight body transformation is complete, the UFC Hall of Famer weighs more than 255 pounds and is ready to take on the world's deadliest men. Jones might face Francis Ngannou, who currently holds the UFC heavyweight championship but has been sidelined due to injuries for most of 2022. But fans are waiting for his return in 2023. For Francis, boxing fights with Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua have been proposed. Still, a mega money fight with Jones might be enough to encourage Ngannou to commit his fighting career to the UFC. But if things take an unexpected turn and he chooses to pursue free agency, the heavyweight title will become unclaimed, and Bones will almost definitely be first in line for a title shot. Next up, let's see how Daniel Cormier reacted. Despite Jon Jones' prolonged layoff, Daniel Cormier believes he can win the UFC heavyweight title. However, this was not Cormier's first impression of his close rival. Cormier predicted that Jones would lose to both heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane at UFC 270 in January because of the time difference as well as the weight difference. But recently, in an interview with the MMA Hour, he said that his opinion of Jones has changed in this regard and that he thinks that Jones is so talented that he'll be okay regardless. He also added that he thought Jones was going to make sure he can still compete. He referenced former UFC welterweight champion Georges St-Pierre, who has been able to dethrone then middleweight champion Michael Bisping at UFC 217 after a 4-year layoff. Cormier sees no reason why Jones couldn't do the same. He said in an interview that it's crazy that everybody's been talking about 3 years, but there are other people that have come back. He gave the example of Georges St-Pierre, saying that he won a championship after being away all that time. Moving along, let's see what Georges St-Pierre expects from Jones' return. St-Pierre and Jones have been widely regarded as two of the greatest fighters of all time. For years, the two ruled their respective UFC divisions, with St-Pierre defending his welterweight title 9 times in a row from 2007 to 2013, and Jones defending his light heavyweight title 11 times in a row from 2011 to 2020. St-Pierre recently said in an interview with MMA Fighting that he'd see it on the red carpet when he got introduced introduced to the UFC Hall of Fame. He recalled the time Jones took a picture with him as he placed his arms around him, and St-Pierre reported that he thought that Jones was solid like a rock and that he was huge. After a long layoff, St-Pierre is not a stranger to moving upwards in weight to contest for a second belt. In 2017, the UFC Hall of Famer decided to return from the 4-year hiatus to submit Michael Bisping and win the UFC middleweight title at UFC 217. St-Pierre experienced health issues as a consequence of his move up to the heavier weight class, but he believes Jones handled the big transition more gracefully than he did. Up next, let's see how Stipe Miocic feels about Jones' return. One of the best heavyweight champions of all time, Miocic had just good things to say about his fellow heavyweight fighter, Jones. He was completely chilled out when he was questioned about his potential match against Jones in the heavyweight category for the first time. Miocic replied saying that Jones is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever of all time. He added that Jones has done so well and that it would be great. Stipe also had only praise for Jones when he spoke about his run at light heavyweight and was reported to have only said good words for his future potential rival. The Croatian-American fighter also said that his focus was only going to be on getting his heavyweight title back since his return from the hiatus that he took. He also said that whoever had the title, whether it was Jon Jones or Francis Ngannou, would love to compete against them as long as he reclaims the title that once belonged to him. Moving on, let's take a look at what Michael Bisping had to say. Michael Bisping decided to take to YouTube to respond to some fan questions and expressed his honest thoughts on Jon Jones, insisting that the athlete should return to the octagon and possibly compete for the title. While addressing Jon Jones, Michael Bisping stated that the former light heavyweight champion is among the greatest ever to step inside the octagon and advocated for his return to the game. He said on his channel that he thought Jon Jones needs to fight, and that's what he thinks. He said that Jones was one of the very best, if not the best, that the sport had ever seen. Bisping called him one of the most naturally talented fighters, saying that naturally he has good talents, but that there might be some unnatural things going on that affect Jones' legacy for sure. He added that Jones is amazing and that he just wants to see him come back and fight for the belt, or fight Stipe Miocic, or just fight somebody because he's almost had 2.5 years on the sidelines now. Next, let's see what Joe Rogan said about Jones' return. Rogan believes a fight between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou would be massive and may happen later in 2023. Jones spoke to host Joe Rogan on episode number 880 of the Joe Rogan Experience in 2016 on how he dealt with the pressure of being undefeated. With that said, Jones is ready for his heavyweight debut after establishing himself as the greatest light heavyweight of all time. Jones will supposedly make his long-awaited heavyweight debut against Francis Ngannou for the belt, and Joe Rogan weighed in on the possible fight. Francis's grappling has improved significantly even with a broken leg, but Rogan really questioned whether it has reached Jon Jones' level. Rogan went on talking about the undefeated beast. Jon defeated Olympic wrestler Daniel Cormier. Jon is a grappling monster, as well as being as tall as anyone in the heavyweight bracket and possessing an exceptional sense of distance. He's the master of using reach. With all these compliments, we believe it's pretty clear that Joe Rogan is another fan excited about the return of Jones. While Jones and Ngannou's long-awaited bout has yet to be confirmed, it is expected that they will meet in March 2023 at UFC 285. And finally, let's see what Curtis Blaydes had to say. Curtis Blaydes will make sure he's ready to welcome Jon Jones to the UFC's heavyweight division, despite rumors to the contrary. Blaydes considers former interim champion Cyril Gane as a possible next opponent, but if he hears his name is being considered for a bout with Jones, he'll be ready to face him or act as a backup if Jones ends up battling heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou in March. Blaydes says he doesn't mind being a backup because with Jon, you never know. He further told the interviewer he'll try to make it. Obviously, he'll be watching his weight and he'll be prepared. Blaydes understands the value of having a name like former light heavyweight champion Jones on his CV. His ultimate ambition, though, is to earn the undisputed crown. That's a wrap for this video. When do you think Jones will make his comeback to the UFC? And who do you think Jon will fight next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.